And South Africa is observing Child Protection Week. But first the news with Onele Nzinzi and our sports headlines with Msibudi Makura.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Well, thank you, Lulu, and greetings to our listeners. Kenya says it supports Morocco's plan to give the disputed region of Western Sahara autonomy under the North African Kingdom's sovereignty, joining a growing number of African, Arab and Western countries that have tilted towards backing Rabat in the 5-decade conflict. The long-frozen conflict dating back to 1975 pits Morocco, which considers the territory as its own, against the Algeria-backed Polisario Front, which seeks an independent state in the desert territory. Tabiso Luhuko reports.
In a joint statement issued after talks between the two countries' foreign ministers in Rabat, Kenya said it views the Moroccan plan as the only credible and realistic solution and the sole sustainable approach. Kenya, after 60 years of bilateral diplomatic ties with Morocco, also opened an embassy in Rabat on Monday. Morocco, a leading phosphates and fertilizer producer, has agreed to immediately accelerate exports of soil nutrients to Kenya, as the two countries plan to cooperate on renewable energies, tourism, fisheries, security and cultural and religious affairs. Morocco's Foreign Minister Nasser Bourita told members of the media that Kenya's position on Western Sahara, which he called the national cause, helped add a new impetus to bilateral relations.
The leader of the United Democratic Movement in South Africa, General Bantu Holomisa, has called for an investigation into false allegations of genocide against white farmers in South Africa. Holomisa's remarks come after a high-profile meeting between South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump. In the meeting, which was held last Wednesday, Trump raised concern about alleged attacks on white farmers, citing videos and reports that have circulated internationally. President Ramaphosa clarified during the visit that there was no genocide and that crime affects all South Africans, black and white alike. Furthermore, these allegations have been repeatedly debunked by fact-checking organizations, human rights groups and South African authorities. Holomisa has warned that in the past, unfounded claims have caused wars which led to untold human suffering.
Well, we cannot allow unverified allegations to circulate unchecked, especially when they have the potential to inflame tensions and distort international perception of South Africa. There is a real risk that these allegations, if not thoroughly investigated, could be hijacked by third forces and manipulated for political or economic agendas. We must therefore guard against South Africa being painted as a pariah state on the global stage due to misinformation or propaganda.
South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, will participate in a high-level meeting focusing on peace in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan and South Sudan. The 12th high-level meeting of the Regional Oversight Mechanism of the Peace, Security and Cooperation Framework for the DRC will take place in Kampala, Uganda tomorrow. Lidava Tsotesi reports.
The Peace and Security Cooperation Framework is an initiative aimed at addressing the structural causes of instability and recurring cycles of conflict in the Eastern DRC and the Great Lakes region. The summit will take place against the backdrop of the deteriorating political, humanitarian and security situation in the Eastern DRC. The situation has been compounded by the resurgence and continuing territorial acquisition and expansion by the M23 and Congo River Alliance. The summit will also reflect on the current deadly conflict in Sudan and worrisome political situation in South Sudan.
Lastly, King Charles will deliver a significant speech in Canada's parliament later today that's expected to offer his support in the country's dispute with US President Donald Trump. The Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney invited the King to deliver the speech at the opening of Parliament after his recent general election victory. The BBC's Danielle Ralph.
The speech from the throne is the centrepiece of the official opening of Parliament here. Most of the speech will focus on the legislative programme of Prime Minister Mark Carney's new government. But it's thought the King will include some personal touches in support of Canada's sovereignty as it faces a trade war and takeover threats from President Trump. Prime Minister Carney has described the King delivering the speech as an historic honour which matches the weight of our times.
Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. The African Perspective. Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Man has been arrested after a car hit a number of pedestrians in Liverpool city centre during the Premier League victory parade on Monday. And four-time major winner Naomi Osaka says she hates disappointing people. This after she lost in the first round of the French Open. Details coming up at 12:30.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu on Channel Africa.
It is 12:07 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. And thank you to Onele Nzinzi with our news update and Sibudi Makura with our sports headlines. Do join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763. That's 406-9126. Hashtag Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Today on hashtag Africa Update Ask, as more and more African children spend time online for school, entertainment and staying connected, the risks they face in digital spaces are also increasing. Now, from cyberbullying to exposure to harmful content, the digital world presents real challenges for young users. So we're asking, are we doing enough to protect African children from online threats? And should online child protection be a bigger priority across the continent? We want to hear from you. Share your thoughts, your views on social media at Channel Africa 1, X and Instagram, and Channel Africa on Facebook, or send us a voice note or message on WhatsApp. That's +27 63 406 9126. That's hashtag Africa Update Asks.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
A top story for this hour that we focus on is Brazil's ambassador to South Africa, Benedicto Fonseca Filho, highlighting the deep historical and cultural ties between Brazil and Africa during Africa Day celebrations held at Freedom Park in Pretoria. That's in the capital city of South Africa on Sunday. Speaking to Channel Africa, the ambassador asserted that nearly half of Brazil's population is of African descent, affirming that there is no Brazil without Africa. He praised South Africa's leadership as the current G20 chair, calling its role vital for advancing the interests of the global South. Now, Ambassador Fonseca also spoke on the importance of multilateral cooperation, particularly through platforms like BRICS and the G20 to address global challenges such as climate change and development. Our Channel Africa's reporter, Michael Mbewe, spoke to the ambassador to South Africa, that's Benedicto Fonseca Filho.
I consider it a privilege and a real honor to represent Brazil in South Africa and to participate today in the celebration of Africa Day is really something special. As I have said, almost half of the Brazilian population is of African descent. So Africa is a very important part of our heritage. We have a slogan that from the embassy we cultivate, that is, there is no Brazil without Africa. We are the second largest, we have the second largest black population in the whole world. After Nigeria, we are the second largest. So the African presence is there in culture, in gastronomy, in the day-to-day, the language. So it is part of what we are. It's a great pleasure to be here, to celebrate and to reaffirm our commitment to work together with Africa to enhance participation in world affairs, to work towards our development. We share similar challenges, we share similar circumstances. We are a multiracial nation with its potential but also with its problems. So we fully share Africa's struggle, first towards liberation, which is completed, but now towards its development. We want to be part of that. We want to share in this collective endeavor. You can count on us. We will be always happy, and on a personal note, I will be extremely happy to contribute to that.
Also looking at the bilateral relations between Brazil and African countries being led by South Africa. South Africa just took the chairship of the G20 from Brazil to South Africa and currently hosting the G20 summit. Your message to South Africa and then also other nations that are supporting Africa in hosting this G20?
Yes, I should thank in the name of Brazil what South Africa is doing, because what South Africa is trying to achieve, and we know it's a big challenge. For us, last year it was an extremely challenging exercise chairing G20 because there are so many streams of work and all of them are very important for us. But I would like to say what South Africa is doing is not doing only in the name of South Africa or only in the name of Africa, but in the name of the Global South, because all the topics, all the priorities, all the streams of work are of interest for all of us. And I would even say not only the Global South, but for the world as a whole, because we believe in shared prosperity. We believe that we have to work together to overcome the greatest challenges we are facing, climate change, the development issues, the fight against hunger. So all of these are positive. Of course, as developing countries, we have to push. It's up to us to be champion of these causes, but they are causes that for the whole world. We don't believe in a prosperity that leaves others behind. So we really thank South Africa, and we'd be happy to work with South Africa to make G20 a big success and to put in place in a very clear way the priorities, to move forward in the priorities of developing countries.
But also there is a new movement, a new broom that is sweeping, the promotion of multilateralism, people-to-people bilateral relations, something that also you mentioned in your speech there. We see the emergence of nationalism. How can we counter that as us, nations from the global south, but also leveraging from the opportunities that BRICS is presenting, of which you and South Africa are also the members, including other African nations like Ethiopia and Egypt?
Yes, I would say that the causes we defend, I have no doubt those are the causes of humanity. I think we are on the right side of history, and we should keep defending those issues of inclusivity, development, equality. So those are causes that the whole world has been pursuing. We know, of course, there are some voices that do not agree, but that is to be expected. We are so many billions of people around the planet, so what we want to do is to keep track of what we're doing, to use those groups we have, the BRICS, G20, as building blocks. I think they should not work in confrontation, but trying to find what are the consensus areas. Of course, within the Global South, it's maybe easier to achieve some consensus, but then to take it to the wider world stage and to fight for these things. I think this is a continuous struggle, one that we are deeply involved, and we thank South Africa and Africa in general for being with us. And that's it. I think there's no alternative but to push, because we see those issues I have mentioned, climate change, developmental issues, those are things that will not disappear, and you have to address them. And I think we should address them always by cooperation, by working together, by trying to work around the consensus and bring on board, or even those people that are going to bring them on board, on the basis of dialogue, on the basis of a better understanding. Because I think when people get to know each other and to see as human people, human beings, not only as some concept or some stereotype, I think that is the key for our success as human beings, and as especially in terms of the global South and the causes we fight for.
Just your comment, you saw the theatrics that took center stage in the Oval Office last week when our president was visiting the Oval Office just to mend the relations. How do you think South Africa fared amid all those misconceptions that the American administration is sought to be believing in?
Well, I would not like, as a foreign diplomat, to comment in detail, but all I can say is that I think all of us, we hope that the relations with South Africa, with all countries, including the United States, will thrive, and that we, as I said, that we can work together towards shared prosperity and and to contribute to the peace, to development of the world. So this is our wish, and we hope that the meeting last week we think it was a very good step in that direction.
And that's Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe speaking to the Brazilian ambassador to South Africa, Benedicto Fonseca Filho. It is 17 after 12 Central African time.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu on Channel Africa.
Ghana has temporarily closed its embassy in the United States of America following an investigation into a visa scam. Now, Ghana's Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa says a locally recruited staff member and collaborators extracted money from visa and passport applicants. And to tell us more, we are joined on the line by our correspondent in Ghana. That's Eric Mawena Egbeta. Eric, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. Pleasure to be here.
Now, Eric, tell us about this visa scam and how it worked and how it came to light.
Right. And so with how it came to light, in Ghana in December, there was a general elections which saw a new party come into office, the National Democratic Congress. And so as part of what has become really a ritual of some sort when the new administration comes in, they audit the previous administration, looking for loopholes where there were wrong financial dealings, amongst many other things. It was exactly what the new Minister for Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, undertook. He tasked an audit firm of some sort, or he tasked for that to be just a simple audit, really, because now we know that the country's Auditor General is officially expected to now go through the books at this Washington embassy. But there was just a simple audit, and this audit revealed that on the website of the Washington-based embassy, where visa and passport applicants go there seeking to kickstart the process, and so a lot of Ghana's visa and passport application processes start online, and so that's where you go, fill up the form digitally, and then proceed to making payments, amongst many other things. This locally recruited staff in Washington, Fred Kwarteng, who was an IT staff, had rerouted links, or had created a special link on the passport and visa application platform where when new applicants came in and were seeking to get either their visas or passports, when they clicked the link, they were redirected to his private website, where he charged between $29 to $60 extra, which is what we're learning of, so that these individuals could get access to their visas and their passports as well. And so that's what the scheme looked like. And from the latest that we're hearing, it does quite appear that he was not the only individual in on the act, because there were other collaborators within the IT department and to a great extent within the embassy in Washington as well, which meant that for a very long time, 5 years and running, this elaborate scheme continued to play out, and millions of dollars was made from prospective applicants. And Ghana has become a hotbed for destination, particularly in the Christmas festivities. And so there are those who wonder, well, how much money could he have made? Over the last 5+ years, we've seen celebrities from all walks of life, and particularly Hollywood as well, make their way into Ghana, particularly during the Decembers, for the December Christmas festivities here in Ghana, because that's one thing that's been marketed quite well over the last few years. And so that has made the country a hotbed for tourist attraction. And so if you work the math as to possible applicants who were all rerouted onto this private website and charged between $29 to $60, that substantiates, or that quite gathers to a quite substantial amount. And that is what now we're learning of, that the Auditor General is being brought in to try and put a figure to it, and then the country's Attorney General as well, to prosecute these individuals and then as well retrieve these funds which have gone into private pockets, Lulu.
Now, staff that were based in Washington from Ghana have been recalled home, and all the locally recruited staff at the embassy have been suspended. What is expected to happen now, especially with the embassy being shut down temporarily? How long is this closure going to be? And what is the expectation of the staff in Washington? They're now suspended. Is it with pay, without pay? What exactly are the details?
Let me start off with the details as with the suspension. And so no clarity has been provided yet by the minister as to whether or not this suspension is with pay or without pay. We know that in other instances, particularly in Ghana, where there's been suspensions of such a nature, it's been without pay, but as and when you're cleared from any wrongdoing, the backlog is paid to you all the while you were on suspension. And so there is great suspicion that this is what the suspension will be like. Without pay, when you're cleared by investigators, then your salary will be paid to you as well. Also, what we do know is that all of these staff have been suspended with the Attorney General invited for quick investigations, because we know as well that there are investigations being conducted. There's been suggestions and calls by different stakeholders that the Home Affairs Office in the USA, for instance, should be invited to help or assist with the investigations, because these monies would have become proceeds which will go into acquiring properties in the United States, and so the US government should be interested as well. And so we know that this suspension as well, there's been no clearly defined date, which is another thing that is raising concern from amongst watchers within the diplomatic space, because even as the embassy continues to remain closed, money which is made by these embassies, because it's Ghana's biggest embassy the world over, where revenue will be generated, that will not be coming to the state as well, whilst the office is closed temporarily. And so there are questions being asked of the minister. There are ranking members on Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee who are seeking to have him appear before the legislature and then provide a bit more details. As we speak, the minister himself is out of the jurisdiction and so has not really been able to provide details as to the full extent of when the Attorney General's office is expected to begin this additional probe and prosecution, when the Auditor General is supposed to go through the books and go through all of the activities and auditing the books in the U.S. Embassy. There's been no clear details as to what happens next, and that is the next area of concern for a lot of watchers who are asking that in the immediacy there needs to be timelines so that persons who are seeking visas or looking for passports as well can know clearly when the embassy is returning, and then they can plan along as well. And so quite sketchy, but just these details is what has been shared as we continue to probe, Lulu.
Now, Eric, how is government, has there been any indication with regards to what will happen now with the plus minus 5 years this scam has been going on? The people that have paid the monies to the scammers or the alleged scammers, is there any indication of whether they will get their money back? What is the situation? What is government saying with regards to that?
Well, at the center of this is retrieval. It's been a mantra this government has championed quite strongly up until winning the elections, where they say they will seek to retrieve looted funds from the state, from private individuals, and then use it for the development of the country. And so, even to start off with, that's been the position. But directly on this matter as well, that's why the Attorney General has been brought in strongly. In fact, the Foreign Affairs Minister who issued the statement was very categorical on the fact that they will seek to retrieve the proceeds of this scam, which has been ongoing for 5 years. The big question is what will happen to the funds when they are retrieved. That's what we do not know, whether or not it will be handed back to the individuals or persons who will be allowed to come through with evidence of the fact that they were rerouted onto this private website and they paid X amount, hence they can't receive their refunds. That's what's not so clear. But as to refunds or retrievals, they say that they will, to the very best of their ability, retrieve all of the funds, no matter where they've been taken to. If it's in landed properties and the likes, they will seek to have all of these funds retrieved. Then I believe the next conversation will kickstart as to the process the refund could possibly take, or if there's no refund, into what project will this be injected into as well. By way of mention as well, what this has revealed is the necessity for an audit of all of the activities of such embassies. Ghana has 2 embassies in the United States, in Washington and then in New York as well. When the minister announced this, there were concerns from a number of individuals as well that this was same in New York, where persons were being charged abnormal fees. And so there's been conversations of an extension of this audits into other embassies, not just in the US, but in other consulates across the country as well. And that's what we get the indication the government will be taking this fight against corruption to, particularly in diplomatic circles. Lulu.
And what's been the reaction on the ground in Ghana from the citizens of Ghana and just Ghanaians across the globe?
It's been shock for a lot of people who've been reacting to it. They cannot fathom why persons who work with diplomatic community will resort to such crude methods to siphon money directly. And this time it's not even from the state, but from fellow citizens. In fact, I engaged a senior research fellow at the Diplomatic Affairs Unit at the University of Ghana, who was very or utterly surprised because these individuals are quite well paid. They are paid in dollars, not your regular civil servants who are paid in the local currency and the likes. And so many have been left bewildered why persons who receive good enough remuneration will resort to such practice, and they are asking or clamoring for prosecution of these individuals to serve as a deterrent to others, and for other persons not to take advantage of their fellow citizens and squeeze them out of the little that they make in faraway countries outside of Ghana.
Eric, it is a developing story, and we will definitely get updates from you as the time just goes by. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
As always, Lulu, a pleasure.
That's our correspondent in Ghana, Eric Mawena Egbeta, joining us on the line. It is 12:30, and our news headlines up next with Onelin Zinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Kenya says it supports Morocco's plan to give the disputed region of Western Sahara autonomy under the North African Kingdom's sovereignty, joining a growing number of African, Arab and Western countries that have tilted towards backing Rabat in the 5-decade conflict. South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperations, Ronald Lamola, will participate in a high-level meeting focusing on peace in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan and South Sudan. And Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has signed into law a contentious bill that requires all motorists to buy a radio license before acquiring vehicle insurance. There has been an outcry from some motorists that they will have to pay $92 annually in order to listen to their radios in their vehicles. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Onele. We say good afternoon to Msibudi Makura with our sports update.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
A very good afternoon from the Sports Desk. Thank you so much, Lulu. We'll start here. As a 4-time major winner, Naomi Osaka said she hates disappointing people after she lost to Spain's Paula Badosa in the first round of the French Open yesterday. Japan's Osaka won her first title in almost 2 years earlier on this month following a maternity break in 2023. Now, against Badosa, she saved a set point before dominating the first set tie-break, but the Spaniard 10th seed player showed resilience to fight back and win 6-7, 6-1 and 6-4. Osaka briefly left her news conference to compose herself after becoming upset. And this is what she had to say when she returned to speak to the media.
I mean, I think as time goes on, I feel like I should be doing better. But also, I kind of talked about this before, maybe a couple years ago or maybe recently, I'm not sure, but I hate disappointing people. So, like, even with Patrick, I was thinking this just now, but, like, he goes from working with, like, the greatest player ever to, like...
On to this now, a 53-year-old man has been arrested after a car hit a number of pedestrians at Liverpool city centre during the Premier League victory parade. Now, eyewitnesses, as well as videos shared on social media, have shown the vehicle driving through a crowd as people scatter. Now, police say they are not treating the incident as a terror-related. Details are still emerging, but here's what we know so far. So, a car collided with a number of pedestrians on Walter Street. Now, the car also stopped at the scene and a male had been detained. Police also said later a 53-year-old white British man from Liverpool area had been arrested and he was believed to have been the driver. The ambulance service said 27 people had been taken to hospital for treatment, with 2, including 1 child, seriously injured. Another 20 people were treated for injuries at the scene. 4 children also among those injured. Liverpool, by the way, were celebrating their Premier League parade yesterday on an open bus tour when the incident is said to have taken place. Back home now, the South African women's football team is grateful for the opportunities to play warm-up matches ahead of the defence of its Women's Africa Cup of Nations tournament in Morocco in July. Previously, there was an outcry from the team over the lack of opportunities ahead of major events. Banyana are in camp in the capital city, Pretoria, preparing for friendly international matches against Botswana as well as Zambia over the next week or so. Now, South Africa will also be aiming to successfully defend the title they won back in 2022, and captain Refilwe Jane, who just returned after a long injury layoff, says the team is grateful for these warm-up matches.
Over the years, there was a challenge of fully preparing for big tournaments, but this time around things have changed. Thanks to Sasol, thanks to SAFA for helping and making sure that each and every FIFA window we get to play friendly games, we get to play tournaments and things of such. So that gives us, the team, a bit of time to gel in together, gives coaches time to see other players. So with all these games that we keep on getting, we try to build on them so that by the time the tournament comes, we are fully ready.
Now, Kenya's Sports Cabinet Secretary Salim Mvura has dismissed concerns that Kenya is not ready to host the African Nations Championship CHAN tournament in August this year. Now, the CAS says the Confederation of African Football have already given Kenya the thumbs up and everything is going to go well. Kenya is the co-host of the competition, traditionally that features players from local leagues alongside their neighbours Tanzania as well as Uganda. It was also initially scheduled for February this year but was postponed in August due to the unreadiness of the pitches. Now, his response comes amidst lingering fears over the country's readiness to co-host the continental event, which are the regards with pitches to be used. Now, work continues at the Moi International Kasarani Stadium as well as the Nile National Stadium, which have been designed as the two venues that Kenya will be using to host the upcoming matches. And finally, University Sports South Africa President Jerry Laka says the Federation is targeting 25 medals for Team South Africa at this year's FISU World University Games. This after the announcement of the final team to represent South Africa at the World Showpiece in Germany from the 16th of July. Laka says the expectation is for the team to be up against some of the top athletes from different countries, and they're hoping that they will medal this year and improve on the 2021 showing when the team returned with a total of 21 medals. That's a wrap from the sports desk at this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, our email address is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
The president of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BADEA, Dr. Sidi Ould Tah, he is vying for the presidency of the African Development Bank, the AFDB. He positions himself as a fervent defender of economic integration and structural transformation on the African continent.
So I do believe that I have a 360 view of the development challenges in the continent with my experience from both the supply side and the demand side. But more importantly, my vision is to bring on board all the stakeholders and to have a holistic approach for the development of the continent and to develop partnership across the continent and outside the continent, bringing all the stakeholders together to work for one goal is to make Africa green for life and livelihood of the African population.
Bringing the African markets into your home. Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
Well, thank you to Subudi Makura with our sports update. Say good afternoon to Buntle Hedbush with our business news.
Business news on Channel Africa, the African Perspective.
A very good afternoon to our listeners. Our top business story this afternoon: South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has urged construction companies to double their investment by building infrastructure that changes people's lives. Ramaphosa addressed delegates at the Sustainable Infrastructure Development Symposium South Africa conference in Cape Town this morning. He says construction companies have the duty to build and invest in infrastructure that boosts the economy and reshapes the environment. He further announced the top 7 infrastructure project priorities for project preparation, as well as unveiled the second edition of the construction book. The book includes over 180 projects with a total estimated value of exceeding close on $15 billion. Ramaphosa says he believes the construction book will allow easy access of information to stakeholders.
National Treasury has clearly and definitively taken a huge bet on funding social infrastructure. And the good thing is we've come up with a number of innovative ways of funding infrastructure, even if we don't have the money now.
South Africa's Rand weakened early, with investors focused firmly on the central bank's impending interest rate decision later this week. The rand traded at 17.9225 against the dollar, about 0.3% softer than its previous close. Economists polled by Reuters expect the South African Reserve Bank to cut its main interest rate by 25 basis points to 70.25% on Thursday. South Africa's inflation stayed below the bank's target range of 3 to 6% in April, while the local currency has recovered from its recent losses to trade below 18 per dollar. The increasing short supply of sugar on the market in Malawi has forced consumers to be subjected to what economists say are exploitative prices. The price of a 1 kilogram packet of sugar has at the moment surged to $3.5, double the recommended government price. Surveys show that sugar vendors are selling the commodity at exorbitant prices due to a serious shortage and an alleged hoarding by some distributors. Spokesperson for the Competition and Fair Trading of Malawi, Innocent Helama.
Be informed that this week and of course next week, CFTC is collecting data on prices of basic household goods. This is actually aimed at establishing any excessive pricing conducts and take such traders to book. It is actually a violation of the Competition and Fair Trading Act to increase prices unreasonably, such as exploitative or excessive pricing.
The World Bank has cut Kenya's growth forecast for this year by 0.5 point from its initial prediction to 4.5%. This as the result of high levels of debt, high lending rates, and a decline in private sector credit. Kenya, which is East Africa's biggest economy, has recorded robust annual growth rates, but high public debt, repayments, economic inequalities, and questions on governance have curbed its performance. European shares have remained stable, supported by defense stocks after US President Donald Trump threatened additional sanctions on Russia though broader gains was restrained by ongoing caution over US trade policy shifts. The continent-wide Stoxx 600 index held its ground at 551.53 points. The benchmark closed 1% higher in the previous session after Trump extended the tariff deadline on the European Union to the 9th of July. Now for a look at our afternoon financial indicators, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1 naira 582. In Botswana, it's at 13 pula 25. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 34. In Zambia, it's at 27 kwacha 41. Moving on to the BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 riyals 65, Russia 79 rubles 25, India is at 85 rupees 06, China 7 yuan 19, and South Africa $1 is trading at 17 rand 84 cents. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 87 to the euro. Taking a look at the commodities this afternoon, gold is trading at $3,306 and platinum at $1,085 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $64.97 a barrel. And those are your business news at this hour. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Bontle Hetbush.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
Hey there, this is Palesa Tau, part of the dynamic duo that gives you on the move right here on Channel Africa from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Central Africa time. Well, it's with your help for the past 2 years that we have been a multi-award winning show.
Well, yeah, we're keeping it on the move in 2025. And yes, I'm the other half of the duo, Benjamin Mushatama, and we're going to keep you going with the great conversations. Turn it up.
Okay. On the Move comes back in 2025 to give you more of the content that made us a Maldo and to deliver that bold, boundary-pushing content
that you love. And of course, giving you a ride through the 3 hours of news, views, and entertainment.
Every weekday from 9 to midday Central African time, right here on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Cool.
Let's go.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:45 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, water is once again flowing through the Lesotho Highlands Water Project Tunnel, a crucial cross-border lifeline between Lesotho and South Africa. Following a 6-month maintenance shutdown, the tunnel has officially reopened, restoring a vital water supply to millions. Channel Africa's Lebogang Mabange brings us the full story from Clarence in the Free State Province.
The reopening of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project Tunnel marks a major milestone for South Africa and Lesotho, ensuring continued water security for millions. The tunnel, which was shut down on the 1st of October 2024, was due for routine maintenance scheduled every 5 years. South Africa completed its share of the work on time, but delays on the Lesotho side extended the shutdown. Minister of Water and Sanitation in South Africa, Phemi Majodina, explains.
By March, our team, South African team, was done with the major maintenance. As you know, that this is the project between two countries, Lesotho and South Africa. We were done on time, right on time. By the 31st of March, we were done and dusted on the South African side. However, on the Lesotho side, they were not done. Their delays were caused by inclement weather. They couldn't work on the site. They requested additional 3 weeks to mid-April.
The Lesotho Highlands Water Project is one of the most important binational infrastructure initiatives on the continent, supporting water delivery and economic development in both countries. Deputy Minister of Water and Sanitation David Mahlobo says proper maintenance will extend the life of the tunnel and help secure future supply.
One of the most important aspects is that this tunnel, as it exists between the two countries, it's an important milestone, because if the tunnel is maintained, in other words, the useful life of this particular asset get enhanced. Now that this tunnel, it normally gets to be, there's a scheduled maintenance over a period of 5 years. And every 5 years when you do it, you can increase the lifespan by more than 20 to 25 years. That's what we'll do. And when this tunnel now is available for the next 25 years, it then guarantees the assurance of availability of water.
But the tunnel does more than just transport water. It powers livelihoods, support agriculture, and even electricity generation. Deputy Minister Mahlobo adds.
This tunnel is so important for both two countries. On the Lesotho side, you know that they were blessed with water, especially the winter rainfall that they have. They get royalties so that they can stimulate their economies. The communities that side, they are getting jobs in terms of what we are doing, but more importantly, they are also being in a position to produce electricity. On our side, this particular tunnel feeds into an important system. It's called the Integrated Vaal River System. The Integrated Vaal River System is supplied the Vaal Dam, supported by 14 other dams. It supplies more than 12 to 14 million South Africans.
Maintenance of the tunnel involved intensive work on both the infrastructure and coordination between the countries. Tebogang Kahle, South Africa's representative overseeing the project, gives insight into what the technical work involved.
The total length of the steel, that side, that was repainted, was about 2 kilometers, 2.168 kilometers. And the total surface was about 19,000 square meters. And we had to use about 43,000 liters of paint, 2,200 tons of sand to sandblast the old paint. It's been a very challenging journey. We missed our deadline, our self-imposed deadline of the 30th of March. But we are here, we've opened the water is running, so we have delivered, finally.
Despite the setbacks, water once again flows through the Clarence Tunnel, a lifeline for communities and industries alike. And with the project now complete, both South Africa and Lesotho look to the future, fortified by this joint achievement. Reporting for Channel Africa, I am Lebogang Mabange in Clarence, Free State Province of South Africa.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
A severe impact of the funding cut by the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR, across the African continent is still being felt months after the cut was announced. In South Africa, 12 clinics have been closed and over 8,000 people are without a job. One of the latest clinics to shut its doors is a major cervical cancer screening and prevention clinic in Johannesburg, as in the Gauteng province of South Africa. It has been in existence for 20 years, mainly treating HIV-positive women. Sisi Sekgalo has more on the story.
Cervical cancer is the second most common cancer among South African women after breast cancer, and remains the leading cause of cancer-related deaths. According to the World Health Organization, South Africa sees about 6,000 new cases of cervical cancer each year, and almost 3,000 women die annually from the disease. Timely screening and early detection is key to preventing cervical cancer. The closure of the Clinical HIV Research Unit in Johannesburg has been described as a blow to the fight against the cruel disease. Dr. Mark Fassen, gynecologist and fertility specialist at the now closed clinic, gives the number of patients they used to see.
So we see about 1,000, as I said, 1,000 patients per year coming through for a pap smear. Plus, we see about 430, 440 patients every year for this specific specialized treatment that they need to prevent cancer. And all these patients, close to 1,500 patients every year, will now have to be directed to the public hospital.
He says the closure will impact cervical cancer prevention efforts in South Africa, which faces one of the highest rates of cervical cancer in the world. He says their former patients will now have to queue at public health facilities and wait close to a year to be assisted. The closure will also further burden the public healthcare system. Fasten again.
So the specialized service is colposcopy and treatment for high-grade lesions to prevent cancer. It's done just by a few hospitals, Rahima Musa, Baragwanath. And because now this large number of patients will have to go through the public channels, the waiting times there will be extended. At the moment, the waiting time is about 2-3 months, and that will then probably increase again to what it was before we started our service, which is 10-11 months.
In a recent press briefing by South Africa's Health Minister, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, to address the impact of the U.S. funding cuts, Motsoaledi tried to downplay the effects of the funding cut. However, he did admit that there were problems.
PEPFAR was supporting the Department of Health in 27 HIV/AIDS high-burden districts out of 52 districts in the country, in 8 provinces. In these 27 districts, there were only 12 specialized clinics that were independent from government and managed by NGOs, providing services mainly for key populations, and they were funded by PEPFAR. Key populations include transgender men having sex with men, sex workers, and people who inject drugs.
It remains to be seen if the Clinical HIV Research Unit clinic in Johannesburg will get the funding to reopen its doors to the thousands who desperately need the facility. For Channel Africa, I'm Sisi Sekgalo in Johannesburg, South Africa.
África. Conhece o Ntivani? Claro que sou eu. Ntivani é o amante da música de corpo e alma.
Eu amo música africana.
Ele aprecia todos os tipos de melodias e passa os seus dias a ouvir a Channel Africa. Adivinha só, a Channel África quer ajudar o Ntivani e os amantes da música em todo o lado a descobrir ainda mais música incrível. Por isso, a Channel África está a convocar artistas africanos a submeterem as suas músicas. Músicos, lembrem-se de nos dar todas as informações relevantes no music@channelafrica.co.za. As submissões são a vossa oportunidade de ser ouvidos, mas não garantem inclusão na lista. Todas as submissões serão cuidadosamente analisadas para verificar se cumprem os requisitos da nossa estação. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Africa Update with Lulu Gabu on Channel Africa.
Well, it is that time of the day where we say a good afternoon and a happy Tuesday to Dobogole Kuleni. How are you today?
I'm fantastic, Lulu. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Actually, I shouldn't say I'm fantastic. It's sad that
Presley,
Presley.
Sonehai, yes. What talent we've lost?
Cobrizzi. What a massive talent that we've lost. Condolences to the family and also to the fans, because my goodness me, he lit up the screens. I tell you what, the character Cobra on the river was something that we have never seen ever before in the history of television, and I am convinced 100% that he wrote his own scripts. There's no way that was written.
I think so too. I can believe that he improvised a lot.
A lot.
I think with a lot of experienced actors and actresses, they do that a lot, especially when you watch their interviews or listen to their interviews. A lot of them talk about working around the script and getting directors who allow them to do that,
which is brilliant.
Which is quite good.
Very, very, very good that the directors
a loss
allowed
to
them.
the industry.
And so young,
40. I know. Hey.
So what's coming up on the show this afternoon? We speak to Michelle Gololo from L'Oreal South Africa about their partnership with UNESCO and how 6 young women who are in science will be recognized for research that could change lives. I know it's got something to do with the skin, right, and finding ways to find sustainable ways of maintaining our looks and ensuring that we stay young forever. But they are leading the charge in terms of research, and they have identified 6 young researchers who will be leading this charge. And then we are joined by Professor Sihaugele Ngubane to unpack how the ANFASA publishing grant, now ANFASA stands for the Academic and Non-Fiction Authors Association of South Africa, is helping South African writers from theatre to politics to indigenous languages bring their manuscripts to life. And then finally we chat to Adonija Owiriwa, executive producer of Festech 77, the Nigerian historical film which was selected for Cannes this year, that's shining a global spotlight on African heritage and cinema. That's all coming up on The Upside this afternoon.
Well, something to definitely look forward to. And before we go, today we ask on Africa, #AfricaUpdate Ask, as more and more African children spend time online for school, entertainment and staying connected, the risks they face in digital spaces are also on the increase. Now, this is from cyberbullying to exposure to harmful content. The digital world presents real challenges for young users. So we're asking, are we doing enough to protect African children from online threats, or should online child protection be a bigger priority across the continent? We want to hear from you. Send us your thoughts, your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, that's Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your voice notes on +2763 406 9126 #Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. Well, that's it from us and our team, our producer Tracy Bumgard, our technical operator Mondlim Dambo, and social media Elaine Bengani. It's been a great day. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.